Hey, what's up everyone, and thanks for tuning in for the Week 11 training compilation. And this week I'm trying something new, which is what you hear me doing right now, adding a voiceover to the training compilation. Give you a little bit more insights and explanation about what I'm doing. And what I am doing is a power building program. It's 50% powerlifting and therefore 50% bodybuilding. And I'm starting a strength block from now in June all the way through October. And this is the first week. And it's overall the 11th week of my overall training program. Since it's the beginning of a strength cycle, then you see here the RPEs on the powerlifting and the RIRs on the bodybuilding are moderate, not too high. Good place to start and give me a place to go forward from here. Readiness score coming into day one at the start of the week, below the ideal range. Hadn't been sleeping well, low motivation, bringing a lot of stress over from the previous week. And so put that in and it's going to adjust the overall volume and intensity that I use in my training for the day. And on to the next set now. I have input my sets and my RPE feeling and increased the weight a little bit. But you see by my reaction, I'm just not overall pleased with what I have to do today, but got it done. And here is the first combo set of this workout session. It's a combo set because these two movements you're about to see are not for the same muscle group. They're not antagonistic. They're completely different body parts. And so that's really the difference between a combo set and otherwise what you might call a superset. And you saw there a little bit of improvisation. I would normally wear my heeled shoes on these leg presses just because of my ankle mobility. But on this day, I forgot to bring the shoes. So I just used some micro plates to create a little bit of space and kind of get the same effect. And here you see some incline dumbbell bench presses, part of my effort of doing chest every workout to bring up one of my weak areas, which is my chest. I like doing incline bench presses because the theory shows that the amount of chest activation is the same in the incline as it is for the flat bench. But what is different in the incline is it's easier on the elbows, and that's great for me since I've had a history of elbow tendonitis. Getting into day two now, and the readiness score has moved up just a bit. That's based on my input and how I was feeling, but also how I performed on day one against the performance targets. Calm style bench press on the program today. The inner rings on this bar are 82 centimeters, which is the maximum width you can use for powerlifting. And you'll see that I placed my index fingers just inside the rings, giving me a grip width of about 80 centimeters. And that's not a coincidence. The width of my shoulders measured from AC joint to AC joint is about 40 centimeters. And so the ratio I get of my grip width to the AC joint width is a factor of 2. And that's not a coincidence. Research shows that that ratio is the best ratio for optimizing strength. And so that's the ratio that I use. All right, now 3 movements in a row done on the cable machine. These lateral raises here are something new for me. I would normally do these with dumbbells, but I'm giving these a try to see if what happens if there's benefits from increasing the range of motion at the bottom. With these cables here, the resistance starts almost immediately at the middle of my glute all the way up. So it's about a third, maybe even a half more greater resistance in the range of motion. So giving it a try this cycle and see how I like it. Okay, and I'm kind of particular on how I do these cable crossovers. For one, I like to make sure the weight is balanced right in the middle, that they're equal distance and I'm getting equal amount of pressure and equal range of motion on each side. And then I'll step forward and do them on my knees. And I like to do this because I feel like it takes the forward lean of my body and actually using my body weight to move the weights. And that means that they're harder to do, they're stricter to do. And if the cable moves, it's just because my chest muscles are moving it, not that I'm getting some activation from leaning forward and using my body weight. These incline curls are probably my favorite bicep exercise, and that's because you can do them pretty strictly. Compared to using a barbell and standing up, where if you leaned forward, you could limit the range of motion a little bit with the bar hitting your thighs. And at the same time, if you're leaning forward, as you rise up, you can create some momentum to lift the bar. I can't do that on the bench, so as long as I control the elbow movement, these are quite strict. These ab rollouts are something that I've learned to love to hate. They're almost like the squats of the upper body because they work everything. When I do these, I'm definitely sore in the core, but I'll get sore in the lats as well, and I feel a good stretch in the triceps. So these are really tough, but also really good. Day 3 now of the training week, and I'm in that sweet spot on the readiness score. So that's from feeling motivated and getting some more rest, but also from doing well against all the lifting targets on day 1 and day 2. And the competition knee sleeves and lever belt come out for the first lower body training session of this strength cycle. At the weights that I'm using now, I don't really need them. I'm comfortable without them. But, I like to say, practice the way you want to perform. And down the road, I want to feel very comfortable with weights, and I want to feel used to using the sleeves and the belt and bracing again. So the practice for all that is starting now. And so how was my first set of squats in this strength cycle? Well, uncomfortable, awkward. Already with the recovery that I'm going through and my limited lung function, breathing has already been a challenge for me on movements like the squats and the deadlifts and other compound movements. And so to suddenly put a belt around my stomach meant to limit the expansion my core can do. Well, it was really awkward. And then on the first few reps of this set here, I wasn't sure I was hitting depth because what I was also feeling uncomfortable with was the bottom of my belt hitting the tops of my thighs. So something to get used to. And trap bar deadlift in the program today. I am liking this Eleiko 25 kilogram bar. Been using it since my last 4-week cycle. I like the open design, how you can just walk into it. I like the one set of handles. They're at the same height of the center of the weights. I like the feet at the bottom, so it's very easy to flip this thing, and you've got a height where you can easily put on the weights and change them. And since I'm not doing conventional style deadlift these days, then this trap bar is a good proxy for deadlift. Because the placement of the bar and the handles, you don't have to worry about going around your knees. So the bar is a little bit further back, and that puts a little bit more quad emphasis compared to conventional style deadlift. But the handles are still quite low, so I need to bend over to pick it up. And so then I'm back in the position of a normal deadlift. So I kind of like these as a proxy since I'm not doing conventional style these days. Now, I've generally considered the leg press to be a good accessory for convention style deadlift. The movement mimics quite well, initiating the deadlift and driving force off of the ground. But I just said I'm not doing convention these days, and I just did the trap bar deadlift, which I also said has a bit more quad activation than normal. So why am I doing these? Well, in the bodybuilding focus of my program, I've put quads as being a focus area just because my squat is relatively weak compared to my deadlift. And so this gives me more focus on the quads just from a hypertrophy perspective. Day 4, and things start to get a little bit boring. Did I just say that? Well, if you're a strength athlete, a power lifter, then you know the running joke about, for the specificity and all the repetition, yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit boring. And this day 4 is kind of additional frequency of things I've done earlier in the week. So here's another session of bench press training. I'm pretty pleased so far on the progression on this and keeping tight, meaning not a lot of movement, and practicing leg drive and breathing. So bench press feeling good. Moving on, these pull-ups, well, maybe I shouldn't tell you, but they are assisted. Just out of frame is a band going across the bar. You saw these before in my cable guy sequence, and you get a better view of the range of motion on this since my back is to the camera. A little bit of chest every day on the incline bench, trying to get in more frequency and addressing my weak area. Here's something new, some narrow grip seated cable rows for some additional horizontal pull work. I did these earlier in the week as well. Good old-fashioned tricep pushdowns on the cable. And I'm wrapping up this training session with what I called my favorite bicep exercise, the incline bench dumbbell curls. And that's it for day 4. And wrapping up the week with day 5. These are usually on a Sunday for me, and I usually like to get in early at about 7:30 in the morning. Usually there's not many people around, so Sunday mornings can be the only time that I'm in the gym where I don't wear a mask. But you see there's somebody right next to me, and you'll see somebody moving in the background a bit. So just to be safe, I'm continuing to use a mask. Moving on to the lift here, I'm setting up for Sumo Deadlift. And this was kind of a milestone weight for me. This is the amount of weight I was using back in the peak of the pandemic in 2020. The gyms had just reopened. I had missed 2 to 3 months of training and I'd come back, and I was using about this weight, 150 kilograms for 5 sets of 5 at that time, and I lost some strength. So I feel like it's a milestone to get back to that as a top weight. The weight is a little bit lower here, you see, on my back offsets. But that was kind of a milestone. So I was happy to achieve that on this first week of sumo style deadlifts in my strength training cycle. And here I'm giving you the up close and personal point of view on the sumo deadlifts. You don't see this angle every day, but I like to take a variety of angles because, well, you just never know what you're going to see. Sometimes I see flaws in my movement and my setup, imbalances, so I like to take a variety of angles. These are high bar squats here. I've been doing these every cycle since October, and I'm really happy how they're coming along. I mentioned earlier about the quad focus. So that gives me a lot more quad focus with a high bar position. So I'm happy with the strength that I've gotten and being able to maintain more of an upright position than I have in the past. If I compare high bar to my low bar technique, which is my comp technique, well, in the past, when intensities have gotten high, when there's been technical breakdown on my low bar squat, I've had the tendency to lean forward and do kind of the good morning style of squat. And some of that's been because of weakness in my legs, but also stability in the core. So I like doing high bar squats to address that, and I feel like I've gotten much better at doing them. And that's it for week 11 training compilation. If you have any comments, feedback, questions, here's how you can reach me on social media networks, and the general request. If you liked the video, found it interesting, please leave a like. And if you're watching this on YouTube, well, please subscribe, hit the bell so that you're notified each week when I create and upload a new training video. That's it, everybody. Peace and hasta.